We all know by now that Robert Downey Jr. is no stranger to improvisation, especially when it comes to his character Iron Man. But we just learned of one huge scene from Avengers Endgame that wasn't in the script, and we could not believe it.
Let's try that again. Get back in here, you're fun too.
While Marvel movies are mostly meticulously planned, with so much care and attention to detail put into every single frame, there are a couple of moments that are a little bit more relaxed. Sure, 99.9% of the lines are right in the script, but every now and then the studio will give actors a chance to flex their improv muscles and go off the page. One of those actors who is given the most freedom is none other than Robert Downey Jr., who has proven himself a master at making things up on the spot. In fact, it is a well-known fact that almost all of the first Iron Man was totally off the cuff. So much so that Jeff Bridges, who prefers to arrive prepared with his lines memorized, even had to make himself relax and have more fun when he would show up for the day with no idea of what they were going to shoot. Jeff Bridges, the chillest man in the world, had to remind himself to relax. According to Bridges, he did so by reminding himself that they were making a $200 million student film. While improv might throw even the coolest actors off their game, Downey is the exact opposite. Not only is he comfortable without a script in front of him, every time he makes his own choices for the character, he makes the entire movie better because of it. He single-handedly changed the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe when he decided to go off script and let it slip the secret that he was Iron Man at the end of the very first movie. Not only did it affect any future Iron Man stories, but it changed the way the studio would go about adapting the rest of the characters. Kevin Feige said this was the moment that opened his eyes, how they could allow characters to divert from the comic book source material in the future. In the books, Tony Stark takes years to reveal his true identity, but the choice Downey made to do it right there and then in the press conference was so perfectly Tony that it had to be kept in. From then on, Feige knew that if it best suited the character, they could loosen up the reins a little bit and make changes as they went along. While other actors like Tom Holland have gone off script, in his heartbreaking farewell scene, for instance, there is no one who does it quite like Downey. He just is Tony Stark. Or was. One of the most intense scenes in Endgame has got to be the fight between Tony and Captain America, once Tony has returned to Earth and is being given the full rundown on how devastating the snap was. Tony is obviously traumatized, and aside from a one line about Rocket being a Build-A-Bear, is missing all of his trademark charm and humor. Having just been through an unimaginable ordeal and grieving the loss of Peter Parker, he is beyond comfort and feels totally betrayed by Steve Rogers. The vision of the events of the snap that he had in Age of Ultron was totally ignored by the group, as was his suggestion for a suit of armor around the world. Because of this, he is filled with resentment towards Captain America and rails against him. At the end of his condemnation of Cap, about how he wasn't there when Tony and the rest of the world needed him, he tells them that he has nothing left to give. No coordinates, no clues, no strategies, no options. Zero, zip, nada. And then finally, no trust. Liar. It is the final word that Robert Downey Jr. improvised out of the entire scene. But it's not enough to just hammer home how betrayed Tony feels by Cap. Remember, at this point, Tony and Steve haven't crossed paths since the end of Civil War, and we all know how that turned out. By calling him a liar, and doing so with such desperation and rage, we all see the pain and resentment Tony has towards Steve for everything that he's done, and just how hurt that Tony is, that someone he grew to trust could just abandon him the way he did. According to Anthony Russo, they didn't have anything to do with the takes of that scene, because Downey gives so much of himself into every single time. He said that, in it, Tony reverted back to someone who felt forsaken by his father, and all of his old baggage came out in his confrontation with Captain America. Russo said that every time he did the scene, it took a lot out of Downey, and that he expended himself emotionally with each take. The sense of betrayal is something that Tony carries with him all the time, because of his difficult relationship with his father. He is an extremely loyal person, and the events at the end of Civil War, coupled with the loss of P.D. Parks, and his near annihilation by Thanos, was enough to drive Tony past the point of no return. Looking for someone to direct his anger at, and Steve Rogers there to represent everything that hurt Tony in the past. His choice to call him a liar was a deeply personal one, and it gave the scene all the more impact in the end. While we no longer have Robert Downey Jr. as the wisecracking, genius, billionaire, playboy philanthropist, he has created one of the most amazing characters who will live on forever, until he gets recast next year. After all of this, we think it might just be time for a good old-fashioned Iron Man marathon. What did you think about Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man? I'm guessing you didn't like it much. Are there even Iron Man fans out there? What are some of your favorite RDJ improvs that we didn't mention here? Let us know in the comments down below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your way out.